Now joining us, Pete from Laker Film Room. Pete, how's it going, man?
I'm good. Long time no see, Kevin. How you been, man?
Things are great, man. I'm sure you're on quite a high right now with the surprise of Saturday night with Luka Doncic being traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. He was just introduced on Tuesday morning in Los Angeles. Rob Pelinka on stage with him. And I want to talk with you about Luka coming to the Lakers, the fit with LeBron James, building this team out in the future. And Pelinka did talk a little bit about this, but the first thing I want to hit on with you is that LeBron-Luka fit. Luka was asked about it as you'd expect him to be asked, and he said, it's a dream come true. I've always looked up to him. There's so many things I can learn from him. I'm curious, Pete, what do you think Luka can learn from LeBron James and however long they're going to be playing together?
Well, so much of the discussion around why the heck would you ever trade Luka Doncic was based on his conditioning, a bet against his body in the future and things like that. LeBron James has had a plan for his body since he was a teenager. And so I think that's an area, the conditioning element that, yes. And then there's also a certain gravitas where LeBron can look Luka in the eyes and be like, I know what it's like to carry a franchise, and I've actually accomplished more than you have while doing it. How many people in the world can say that? And Luka's never played with one of them. And so that ability to, and LeBron has always effusively praised Luka and called him his favorite player in the league in a tweet a couple of years ago. And so I think that there is a language that they can speak to each other. LeBron and Magic Johnson have a certain relationship that is in that realm as well. And so I think in those aspects of this is how you can go from great to champion.
And I think LeBron, when it comes to the stuff like that, he has always been someone, as ball dominant as LeBron has been in his career, he is someone who has been willing to do the other stuff. When playing with Wade, we saw him obviously take a little bit of a backseat sometimes. He'd be used as a screener more, as a cutter more. He didn't have to dominate the ball. AD with the Lakers in recent years, you see the rise of Austin Reeves as well. I mean, LeBron screens for Reeves 4 or 5 times a game. And that's Austin Reeves.
That's right.
So I think that's something Luka can look at and say, oh, wait a minute. LeBron cuts 5 times as often as I do. Little things like that. That's what makes a champion on top of the conditioning aspect.
Very much so. And LeBron, fun stat for you. Last season wasn't the Lakers' top pick and roll ball handler and wasn't second either. He ran the 3rd most pick and rolls on the Lakers last season for D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves. And
it's incredible.
Right. And so this idea that LeBron is ball dominant, I understand, but I would argue he's played with all of these other ball dominant players. And if you actually watch LeBron play, he's the best screener on the team. He is a great connector he's gotten much better as a shooter. And so there has been a certain burden the Lakers have had in terms of having a power guard that they tried and failed to address with Russell Westbrook, but a certain burden alleviation of LeBron of like, damn, I got to be the guy that breaks down the defense every single time. And that's more of a skill thing with Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell, how they would navigate pick and rolls. But when the ball pressure turns up and the physicality turns up, it was really only LeBron that you can have. And so this is the first time I can think of in NBA history that a team has had 2 jumbo initiators, 2 guys that are 6'7", 6'8", that are natural point guards playing together on the same team. These are both players, Kev, that are in the upper echelons of being able to see opportunities that you couldn't see, that no one else could see on the court, and now they play together. I don't think that's ever happened before.
I don't think it's ever happened either. I mean, you think about big duos, it's usually a traditional big, it's Shaq and Kobe. It's McHale and Bird. It's one true big, a low post player involved in that, or it's 2 wings who aren't natural point guards, Tatum and Brown, Kawhi and Paul George. It's these types of combinations, but I can't think of anything close to resembling what we're going to see with LeBron James and Luka. What do you think, JJ Redick, creativity wise, it could be thinking about at this point when it comes to how to best install actions that maximize what these guys can do for each other in ways that we really truly haven't seen any time in NBA history?
Yeah, I think a lot of what the Lakers already do, it's fairly simple, and a lot of it's in the middle of the court. The Lakers run a lot of horns actions, a lot of double drags, a lot of split posts, but it's basically 2 or 3 players in the middle of the floor and then spaced out to the deep corners and a couple of different variations of that. My second biggest worry for this Lakers team prior to this trade was the ability to beat switches in the playoffs. And just that's something that across the board between LeBron, AD, and Austin, that once teams could switch and they had a little bit of size and physicality, Lakers would struggle to score in the half court. Trading for Luka Doncic basically single-handedly resolves that type of concern. And so
that's kind of
sure. Right? And
he's the ultimate switch killer.
That's right. And so that box is checked and delivered and sent out. And so I think the type of three-man actions where it's like they both saw an opportunity that nobody else saw on the floor, or pass it to the dunker spot and then ping it out to the weak side wing, that could just be some of the coolest basketball and most creative and imaginative basketball ever. I have concerns about the defensive end for sure, but on offense, I think it could be great.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think it's interesting when it comes to those guys. I forget who it was recently. Oh, yeah, it was Jokic and Russ. Jokic had said it's like he's reading my mind in regards to Russell Westbrook. Like they just have this telepathic connection with each other. I could imagine it might be something similar to that with LeBron and Luka. Now, you mentioned obviously defense is concerning. They need to add a big, that's for sure. Pelinka was asked about, building this roster out, and he's more talking long-term, but I thought his answer was very interesting, how he said the focus is building around JJ Redick's coaching style, around Luka's strengths. Didn't really give a mention to LeBron here. Understandably so when he's 40 years old and maybe he only has one more year left, but I do think, as Dave McMenamin said at ESPN, maybe partially informed speculation, Luka is somebody who could extend LeBron's career if LeBron chooses to. We've seen LeBron manage to maintain top 10 level player in the league production as his athleticism has waned. He's still obviously one of the best athletes on the planet, but he's not like otherworldly alien level in the ways that he was in his prime level. Now, LeBron can be a screener guy. He's a 43% shooter on catch and shoot threes the last two seasons with the Lakers. He's a knockdown guy at this point. He can score on the post if he needs to. I really do think there's a chance here that maybe LeBron does want to stick around for an extra year or two, because this is the first time in his career that he doesn't have to be the best player on the team. Like, what does LeBron look like as an overqualified number two? And there were times AD was the best player, but not to the extent as an offensive engine that Luka can be.
That's exactly it. It's the difference between the offensive engine and not. And so when LeBron's been asked about this in the past, he's always gone to the mental aspect of things. The reason his game has aged so well is everybody gets slower. Not everybody can't jump as high as they used to, but LeBron's still going to be strong. He's still going to be brilliant. He's still going to know the fundamentals of the game. He's still going to have vision and understanding, and he's gotten much better as a shooter. And so whenever he's been asked about this, he's talked about that mental aspect of, did you ever hear Woj talk about why he stopped doing what he's doing? And like one of the things he was like, man, I was tired of taking 30-second showers and just the things like that. For LeBron, It's like, bro, do I want to be on the struggle bus on a play-in adjacent team for the next? Or that sounds exhausting. I think if they can build something around Luka, there's a certain life and let's go compete for titles. Yeah, I bet you could extend his career.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. If titles are like of high likelihood, if you're one of the favorites instead of, like you said, play-in potential, completely different story. And that's what's exciting for the Lakers with the way that they get Luka they give Christie, who's worth a first round pick, and they gave one of their future first round picks, and they gave AD, who's worth 4 or 5. So they gave up a good amount of value in the deal, but they didn't give up everything as you would expect they would have had to go get Luka. So they still retain some level of assets to go out there and make further acquisitions. They still have some very tradable players. Maybe Austin Reeves becomes more expendable now because you have Luka and LeBron handling so much of the creation duties, or maybe he is, a great number 3. We'll see there. But the fact is they have options here. The number one thing the Lakers need, pronto, right now, they need to find a center. When you have Christian Koloko and Jackson Hayes is really your only true 5s right now, that's a pressing, serious concern. I mentioned on the podcast over the weekend that I've heard Mitchell Robinson is one of the many bigs they're taking a look at. I'm not so certain Mitchell Robinson should be the target there. He might not come back until March or April for the Knicks. So he's not short-term help. He'd be more playoff help. Are there any bigs that you have in mind that would make sense for the Lakers to target?
Oh man, I think that I've thought about this the last couple of days. Forgive me, I'm a little disoriented right now from having from this trade in terms of Laker needs. I said that beating switching defenses was my second biggest concern with the Lakers in the playoffs. Number one was their rebounding, and that was before they traded Anthony Davis. And so, yes, they need a 5. That personnel isn't going to work out. However, there is less of a, if you don't make a run this season, you are not going to make a run anytime soon type of desperation that, to answer your question, Time Lord becomes very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, can we get a lob threat? But I think they need a starting 5, and I view him as more of your second big. Like the idea of pairing him with Anthony Davis and just being nasty on defense, huge, but able to switch everything, and all of that was super intriguing to me. The idea of, hey, we really need you to play 28 minutes a game and 70 games a year, and all of that is a level of, need there that I would love. Mitchell Robinson, even long-term, although injury concerns there. Miles Turner, of course, that's an annual tradition, or Miles Turner to the Lakers rumors.
If you get Luka, you can get anybody, clearly. There's no trade idea that's too outrageous.
Kevin,
clearly.
This is why we Photoshop your stars into our jerseys. You'll never get that to stop now.
It's the truth. There's no Photoshop.
You can't even tell us nothing. No more. Sorry, we won. We won this round.
I think a couple other bigs. You nailed like every player you mentioned is on my list as well for them. Like the players I'd target as a Lakers center. Nick Claxton, a little pricey, but like he's one of the best switching bigs in basketball. So he'd be one of the guys I'd really like to go out for if I'm the Lakers. How about Onyeka Okongwu from the Hawks? A bit on the smaller side, but does have some switchability, theoretical floor spacing ability as well. Walker Kessler, everybody mentions Walker Kessler, obviously from the Utah Jazz, and Day'Ron Sharpe from the Nets. He's somebody that multiple teams I've heard are making inquiries with Brooklyn to go get Day'Ron Sharpe. Maybe the Lakers should be one of those teams. I'd love him as a rebounder, passer at the 5. Again, a little bit undersized height-wise, but has length, versatility. I'm a fan of him.
The devil works hard, but Aaron Riley works harder. I do like Day'Ron Sharpe, though. And yeah, that I don't think he is a starting caliber, like let's make a run in the playoffs type of guy. But I do think he could help quite a bit. That said, I think that they need a caliber of player at that position that, Okongwu I think would be super intriguing because I think they're going to lean into foot speed. I think you'll see a lot of small ball groups. In terms of what are the things, Kevin, do you think that a small ball group needs to do well to play small? What would you say?
Versatility, length, communication, connectivity.
Rebounding, right? You got to have a certain amount of size.
Team rebounding, of course, yep.
A certain amount of collective winginess, right? That if you start with LeBron and Luka, you got Vando in there. I think Rui is probably, like, we'll see if he gets traded. Him and Gabe are kind of the likeliest to get traded.
Especially with their salary number, 17 for Rui and 10 or 11 for Gabe Vincent. I agree, absolutely.
For sure. But if they stuck around, they'd be big parts of small ball type of groups as well. And so I think that at some point when you get to I do think the Lakers will try to make a trade for sure. But I think at some point when you get to Jackson Hayes or Christian Koloko as your best options, kind of changing the strategy overall and seeing if you can get a little bit weird, it might be your best route to it. But remember when Dallas traded for Kyrie and they stunk out loud and missed the playoffs right after because they were so misshapen? They didn't have any interior presence defensively, and so they're just getting killed until they resolved it that next offseason. I think there's a chance this Lakers team is actually worse in the short term, depending on what happens at the trade deadline, as a result of just kind of being this imbalanced roster.
Which would be totally understandable considering the roster. One short-term name I want to mention to you, he was waived over the weekend after being traded to the Jazz. Mo Bamba. How about a return from Mo Bamba to the Lakers?
I don't think Mo Bamba's happening, my man. That's the back of the roster type of thing. Yeah.
How about, a little short term? Come on. Give me Mo Bamba. Give him another chance. He was good before he got hurt with the Lakers. He was solid. Not a fan, Pete?
No. I like very low motor. They need somebody that really wants to play basketball.
I know. The motor's been better this year. It's just the Clippers, like Ty Lue likes to play small as well. Obviously, Zubats has been excellent for the Clippers. tough. Hopefully Bamba finds a good spot. He's one of my guys.
So with guys like Bamba and Sharp, it's like, I like them, right? This is what I'd like to have them as part of the organization type of thing. My mindset right now at the trade deadline is, can we find a way to make a run this year with Luka and LeBron? Is there any way that we could do that? And those guys just don't enter the conversation for me on that.
And I agree completely. And like ultimately, they are a big away from being a team that can make serious noise in the postseason. They just are. Like, it's such a truth. When you have Luka on your team, you automatically have a shot to make a run. He took the Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals years ago when he was younger, obviously leads them to the finals last year against Boston. When you have a player of that caliber, you get a chance, especially when you have a player of the caliber of LeBron James, who now is the second best player on the team. I still think LeBron is a top 10 guy in the league. I think some of the stuff about him being a non-top 10 guy are outrageous, the level he's playing basketball. So you have two top 10 talents on your team with some really good role players on your roster already. If they get the right big, they got a shot to take down OKC, best in the West right now. OKC's still young. I'd still think they're the favorite. But the Lakers have something different here because with SGA, there's still the concern about what happens with Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. There's still that question about that second guy as a scorer. Sometimes their shooting also falls flat as well. So I don't think they're unbeatable in the West for a long list of reasons. And that's true with Denver, with Jokic as well. They could take down OKC as well, but the Lakers have entered that conversation if they find the right big.
So damn you for making me argue against the Lakers on your national podcast very quick, but a little bit of pushback. Max Christie has been very useful and helpful for the Lakers, and he's he does a job specifically of guarding the other team's best player. Who is that on the Lakers now? 6'1" Gabe Vincent?
Yeah.
Can't shoot true. Vando, not a lob threat either. Vando is great at it, don't get me wrong, but adds a level of complication on the offensive end that, even we traded two starters in which that job has to be filled by someone. And the way I see it is the Lakers have the assets to fill one of their two gaping holes that are remaining on the defensive end. So I'm ultimately very skeptical of the Lakers' ability to defend and rebound to the degree that they would need to. But we can be surprised by a trade, can't we?
Yeah.
Right?
That has been proven for sure.
So we'll see.
Pelinka did kind of, he said it without saying it, more likely off season for getting that center that we're talking about here. He said the market's very dry right now, but that could also just be him, open, trying to gain some leverage at a press conference as well. So we'll see there with the Lakers. I do think your point about the wing position is a good one. If this fails, if LeBron and Luka just don't mesh, what went wrong?
Ooh, that's a good question. They have there's a certain Spider-Man meme component to them. Like, first time Luka stays behind a play to complain about the grave injustice that he just suffered at the hand of the referees, and LeBron is irritated at that, it's going to be a very Spider-Man meme type of moment, right? They have some of the same petulant, I've been the man my entire life, and so I'm going to be kind of a brat sometimes.
How dare you?
Court. Right. And if they're both doing that, God, are either you just going to get back on court, now you're 5-on-3, and Austin Reeves is, doing this on a 3-on-1. That's how it fails, I think.
I think that's true. I don't think it'll fail offensively. I think it'll be that kind of that X factor, that personality aspect. Now, with the Maverick side of things, I'm curious about your thoughts with the AD fit for Dallas, because I think Lakers fans hold AD in a special regard, whether it's Mike Trudell, who, loves AD. I text with him sometimes. He's always like, dude, you underrate AD. Everybody underrates AD. Every Lakers fan in my life knows that AD is a truly special talent. Now, I feel like nationally, the conversation with him is sometimes about durability, and understandably so, until recent years. But with AD now going to Dallas, you have Nico Harrison talking about defense wins championships. I think some of the things he said were absolutely foolish, as I talked about with Jason Gallagher on the podcast earlier this week. But to Nico Harrison's point, their roster does have some balance. AD, an elite defensive player who looked like an MVP candidate earlier this season, paired with Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford. AD himself talked about wanting to be a 4 next to a 5. Kyrie playing basketball on an all-star level with a bunch of really good wings on that roster, adding Max Christie to the mix. I feel like there's a chance the Mavericks look better this season. Would you agree with that, considering the talent that AD has and brings to that Mavericks roster?
Better than the Lakers? Like toward the end of the season,
better than Dallas would have, having not made a trade.
You mean
there's a chance
than having Luka Doncic on their team?
A chance.
Yeah.
A chance.
Yeah.
I don't think so, but a chance.
There is a chance. Their defense will be nasty. And Kidd was a Lakers assistant on that 2020 team, and a very underrated part of the brain trust of the defensive schemes. And Dallas just kicked the Lakers' butts not too long ago without Luka or Kyrie, as a function of how together they were on the defensive end. The thing about AD is that he's a dirty work superstar, in that he's a very unusual type of superstar, in that I can't think of another player who considers himself a 4 who is not a either 3-point threat at high volume or a ball handler. The only non-3-point threat 4s that I can think of are Giannis and Zion. And those are the guys that can rack it. They can get to the basket off of the dribble. AD can do that, but it's not like the best thing that he's at. But he is such a complete player, and this is part of the reason why Laker fans defend him, that he can fill in the gaps. And sometimes the motor's turned off or he's hurt, right? So he can be a frustrating player for sure. But he can so completely dominate a game in so many different facets. There's a version of him that's Wilt Chamberlain. There's a version of him that's Bill Russell, that's dominating with a 15 and 23 with 8 stock type of performance. He can be a few different things. My concern with Dallas, and again, I don't follow them the way that other people do, but I saw Kyrie struggling as a second guy once it really got turned up defensively to a degree where it's like, now that's your top guy. And I've seen that happen with AD. That's one of the downsides of him as a superstar, is he's a good on-ball player, but kind of matchup dependent. You can, like a bigger player that can move his feet enough, and he's not the athlete that he was when he joined the Lakers, AD, that, you can kind of take away his ISOs a little bit. He becomes he's great in the pocket on pick and rolls and things like that. So that's kind of where I go with that, Kev.
I agree with you 100%. Kyrie in the finals last year against Boston, everybody talks about Luka getting roasted on defense, the windy moment after one of the games. You're like, the champions are in that tunnel, the losers are in this tunnel, about Luka's approach to the game. All fair, but Kyrie stunk. He really struggled when the defense got to that level. And like you said, AD at times when he's asked to be that primary, he's better as that elite top of the line finisher for you, who fills gaps in so many different ways. And so for the Mavs, yes, there's some roster balance. Yes, they could have an elite defense, but we just saw the NBA championship won last year by the team with the greatest offensive rating in history. In today's day and age, offense is what really wins championships. Defenses support that run. So for the Dallas Mavericks, I do worry about what their offensive upside can be once it comes to the playoffs. And I think for them, using some of those assets they got from the Lakers, they have to find another ball handler. It can't just be Spencer Dinwiddie as that second guy behind Kyrie Irving as an offensive initiator. You need to find someone better if you're Dallas.
I mean, is there somebody available like that at the deadline? I think that's an offseason problem for them too. Yeah, I don't really get it from their perspective, frankly. The one thing I will say is that there was such a reaction to the deal of like, you got so little back. Who would you have off the top of your head as players who are worse than Luka but better than AD in the league? Sorry to put you on the spot, but
Anthony Edwards. Edwards. I mean, it's like a slim. It's like the third best player. Luka to like the 9th or something like that.
Something like that, right? And then my follow-up question:
Tatum, something like that.
Or is Minnesota trading Anthony Edwards? No. Is Boston trading Tatum? I mean, is Dallas trading Luka Doncic? Yes, apparently. So I understand anything is possible, but you see what I'm saying, right? In terms of like, if your goal was to compete now from Dallas's perspective, and you decided we need to trade Luka Doncic, which is insane.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Let's take that as a given part of the argument.
Yes.
AD is probably the best player you could get back in return. And I know that future first-round picks that convey in 2048 are the currency of the realm in online discussions about trades, but actually good players right now have a lot of value to people whose assets are on the line in terms of what type of GM they might not be GM of that team in 2048. They want players who are good now. And obviously, if Nico Harrison is going to do something like this, he has to deliver very quickly.
Oh boy.
Good luck.
Nico Harrison. Good luck, man. There's a chance, but I'm not betting on that chance for Dallas, man. I'm not betting on that chance at all. Pete, thank you for joining me today, man. You're the best. You're the best and the brightest covering the Lakers, man. Your analysis and the videos you make, your podcast. I've always admired everything you do, man, and it's always great to talk basketball with you. Now, 3,000 miles away here in Massachusetts, but you're the man, Pete. Thank you for joining me today.
Appreciate you, Kev. I had a blast, man. Thank you for having me on.